Welcome back, guys. As you can see, back in the shed for the old how-to videos. This one I was asked a question by a gentleman about leaders and a certain lure. So we're just going to talk about that for a second. Then I'm going to talk about leaders in general, because I get asked in the shop quite a bit on the different type of leaders. There's a few different types, and everyone gets, not everyone, but a few people still get confused on which leader they should use. So I'm just going to give you a basic breakdown of what type of leaders, what I use them for. Everyone in fishing is a little bit different, but this is what I use them for, okay? To start off with, the gentleman asked me about an older video when I was talking about sluggos. You want to know about sluggos and what leader I use with these. He didn't say he was chasing dolphin fish or kingfish or flathead or anything, so I'm not sure. So we'll go through a couple of different leaders. Okay. And first of all, to answer the gentleman's question, he asked, do you put any extra weight with this? I'm going to say no. No extra weight. There's enough weight in the sluggo to cast it. Just your weedless hook or your worm hook. And if you're chasing flathead, even dolphin fish if you want to, but you don't have to. But flathead, you got your stinger down the back, your treble. Okay, so what do I do with these? No weight whatsoever. I usually have a couple of metre leader tied straight to my braid with an FG knot, SC knot, or bright, or something like that. Just whatever knot you're comfortable tying to your braid. Around a couple of metres. And the leader I choose, say if I'm in close, chasing flathead on the flats with this, I'll run a 16-pound fluorocarbon. A 15, 16-pound fluorocarbon leader. That's what I'll use for flathead, a couple of metres long, okay? If I'm offshore chasing dolphin fish around the fads, I don't worry about fluorocarbon lines. But I will tell you, I'd use say a 40-pound supple if I'm chasing dolphin fish around the fads. And the reason I use a supple line, you'll tell, because the lines will tell you on here, supple. Okay, jinkai, it's supple. Okay, tiger line, that's supple. In other words, it's a nice soft line, flexible line, and I like that when I'm casting lures. So there's no restriction really. Some guys will use fluorocarbon. It's quite stiff and wiry. Or a tough line. It's not as stiff and wiry as the fluorocarbon, but still it's got a harder coating, it's a bit stiffer. So when I'm using lures and like sluggos and you need to get a bit of action out of them, get them to dive and glide, I use a nice supple leader. And if I'm chasing dolphin fish, I run about a 40-pound. 30 to 40, depending on the size of the dolphin fish. If they're small ones, go to 30. If they're big ones, you can go 40, even up to 50. But most of the time they're mixed between small and medium, so usually a 40 pounds enough. Okay. If I'm chasing kingfish, once again, same deal. I run a supple line, about 2 metres a litre, nice and supple, probably around 40 pound as well. There's no teeth on kingfish, so. Okay, so for that one. Now we'll just get into the different leaders. What I use them for. Tractor going past, that's different. Okay, so now that's gone past, if I'm going to go, say, Morocco jigging, the slow pitch jigging, or even high speed jigging, okay, got the jigs. Once again, I usually run around 2, 3, sometimes 4, but usually 2 to 3 metres of leader. And the line I'll use for this, I don't run fluorocarbon offshore. I don't think it's needed. I'd rather spend money on something else than a fortune on fluorocarbon for offshore. Some guys are going to argue with me and say fluorocarbon works well offshore. It might, but I catch plenty of fish, enough fish just using normal leader. So when I'm offshore and I'm going, say, jigging and I'm chasing powerful fish like kingfish and AJs and things like that, or you're in chasing reef fish like snapper and things that hit the bottom, want to get to the bottom and snag you, I run a tough line. Okay, so it doesn't have to be Instincts. This is a Tackle World brand. Just a tough line, like you got tough there. I've even got tough in Black Magic. It's tough line, says there. All that is, that's just a harder outer coating. Okay, the line's a little bit stiffer than supple, but not as stiff as fluorocarbon. It's just got a harder outer coating. It's more abrasion resistance, which is good around reefs and rocks and everything else. And little teeth. So generally when I'm out jigging or chasing reef fish and fish that's going to head for the bottom like kingfish and everything to break you off, I'll run a tough trace. You can run a fluorocarbon as well. That's got a harder outer coating as well. It's good abrasion resistance. Apparently fish can't see it. but when you're fishing deep water, the water's dark down there. I don't think the colour of line's going to make too much difference. But that's your call. Okay, so that's enough of that one. Where I do use fluorocarbon leaders, like I have got it here on FC Rock, I've got a couple other brands, and from 6 pound to about 20 pound I'll use fluorocarbon. But that's mainly when I'm in shallows, rivers, fishing on top of sandbanks, in crystal clear water, shallow clear water, like chasing flathead and things. I think fluorocarbon comes into its own when you're in really clear water. Even if you're like going up the rivers chasing bass down south or up here, you want to go chase a few jungle perch. Fluorocarbon will come into its own, it can't be seen, it's really good in clear water. The only downside to it is it doesn't really like stick baits, as fluorocarbon's a sinking line. It's not that good on poppers because it keeps on trying to pull them down. But on like twitch baits, or if you're going to run plastics and things that sink, fluorocarbon's great. If you're just going to run like poppers and stick baits and stuff, small things like this, just stick with a normal light mono, honestly, because it floats. Just a normal light mono, just go buy a clear one and just run a mono. Or just get a leader line, but it's not fluorocarbon, just a leader line and 6 and 8 pound, just so it doesn't pull your poppers and stick baits and stuff down. Okay. If you're in trawling around in shallow waters, once again for jungle perch and sooties, or down south for flathead, bass, whatever in clear water, and you're running little lures like this, yeah, fluorocarbon's fine. 6, 8, 10 pound is fine. Okay. Next ones I use. So, like up here yesterday, or in the video yesterday, I was casting around this big plastic for looking for barra. Seems that's a slow sinking lure and I want it running through the snags and just under the surface swimming. That's a 40 pound fluorocarbon. Okay. And the water on the pond where I was fishing was quite clear. On the other side it was murky and white water. But that's a 40 pound fluorocarbon I was using. So I wanted to actually pull the lure down and just sink slowly and swim. And he's getting cast around snags and logs and stuff. So fluorocarbon, if you're not going to run a fluorocarbon, run a tough line. Make sure it's a tough line. Don't run supple. Supple's nice soft line. It's no good around structure. Okay. Where I do run supple lines, with supple, like we've got Black Magic supple here. Generally when I'm running like supple lines, like 100 pound supple, Black Magic or something, this is on skirts or lures when I'm trawling offshore. Okay. I run a nice soft supple when I'm trawling. That's when I rig me skirted lures and things like that up for. That's what I use it for. Okay. Next thing, if I'm saying going out bottom bashing or live baiting or float lining for snapper, I use the same line over and over again. Tough trace. So if I'm offshore bottom bashing like paternoster rigs for snapper down south or nanny guy or something up here in the north or wherever, and fishing around the reef with baits, I run a tough leader. Okay, tough, so it's got a harder outer coating. If I'm live baiting for Jews or something down south, cobia, wherever, I run a tough, because most of those fish either on the bottom, they're bottom dwellers, or they're going to head for the bottom or around structure and reefs, and like cobia love wrecks. So run a tough line just for a harder outer coating, and it's not that stiff. It's not like fencing wire. It's not like if you run 60 pound in a fluorocarbon, it's like tying fencing wire. It's ridiculous. But a tough line, it's easy to deal with. Got harder coating, so it's very good that way. If I'm going just to float a pilly down for a snapper or putting an unweighted pilly up here in the north for a mackerel, once again, just use a tough trace. Just for the harder outer coating, that's all. The only time I really use supple is when I'm rigging lures, I swim in lures, even hard bodies offshore. A lot of people say, where's your wire? I don't run wire with lures, unless I'm chasing wahoo. If I'm targeting wahoo, I'm not running about that, I'll be running wire. But everything else, I run mono. Hard body, skirts, whatever. And I usually run a supple. Okay, so supple line for mainly trawling, tough line I like when I'm like bait fishing, live bait fishing, and fluorocarbon I use when the water's really clear or shallow, really clear inshore basically, rivers and bays and just shallow clear water, I'll use fluorocarbon. Well, so that's about it. hopefully that will help you next time you're in the shop or something. You look at all these different leaders, you're not sure which one to buy, no one's coming to help, or they're not giving you very good advice. Just remember that. Supple if you want to rig up lures for trawling. Tough trace, that's the main one I'll use if you're just going bait fishing, live baiting. And fluorocarbons if you're basically fishing in shallow, clear water. It will help you out in that matters, but offshore, not so much. That's just my basic breakdown on leaders, what I use them for. It works very well, and it will save you a fortune buying fluorocarbons. Don't go into a shop and let somebody push you around and say you need 60-pound fluorocarbon for offshore free fishing and stuff. You don't. You really don't. Just buy a good quality, tough line. You'll be fine. You'll catch just as many fish as the guy next to you. Okay? Just buy the fluorocarbon when it's clear water, it's shallow. That's where I find it comes in best. And if you run on just those basic breakdowns, you'll have no trouble finding leaders or going fishing and even tying knots. Most of this stuff's quite easy to tie knots in. So go for it, guys. And once again, that's it. I'm going to see you again in the next video. That one, I've also got asked, actually by a few people on this one. The next one is going to be a rather large one. It's going to be a big one. I'm going to have to do it in sections and then put it all together, so it might take a little time. But I've been asked by a few people to start off just with the basics, from what gear to buy to what rigs to make, how to tie the knots, what lures. It's just going to be like a one big video, but in different sections on just the basics of different types of how to start off fishing for different things. It's going to be a big one. It's going to take a little time, guys. I hope you stick around for that one. A lot of people have been waiting for that one, and I'll probably see you in that one because I won't be going offshore in the boat for a little while. There's apparently a big low or two lows or something now offshore. It's very windy here, and after the last few days I'm not going land-based. Bugger that. Yeah, so I'm going to just sit in the shed and do a couple of videos, and then hopefully the weather will back off after the second video and we'll go back offshore and start doing a bit more filming. Anyway guys, we'll see you in the next video, and that's going to be a cracker. It's going to be a big one. See you then. Bye.